Hello, Algebra students. Today we're doing lesson 1-6, Compound Inequalities. Please put your name, date, and period on your note paper. Our objectives today are to create and solve a system of inequalities. We also are going to interpret the solution to a compound inequality within modeling a context. The vocabulary for today is graph, subset, solution of an inequality, and compound inequality. And the Spanish is there for you to recognize the Spanish vocabulary for the same words. We will now understand compound inequalities. What do you notice about the graph? Write a compound inequality for each. On this graph A, we notice that there is an inequality that starts at 3 and it is less than 3 because it goes in the less than direction. We also have it starting at 5 and it is greater than 5. As a compound inequality, we are going to put those together and combine them with x, and then x is greater than 5 will go here, the 3 will go here, but we're going to write the less than backwards because we're reading this part backwards from x is less than 3. Part B. What do we notice? We have 2 and we have all of the numbers greater than 2 until we get to 14. So it'll be x is greater than 2, and then we have the 14, and x is less than or equal to 14. Now we need to put these as one compound inequality. With x in the middle is less than or equal to 14, we put the 2 over here, and the greater than has to come from the x because we're reading it backwards. So reading it this way. So x is greater than, I know it's the less than symbol, but when we read it backwards, it would read as x is greater than 2. For this section, we will solve a compound inequality involving OR. So we have solved the compound inequality. I'll highlight this. Negative 3x plus 2 is greater than negative 7, or 2 groups of x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 6. We will solve each piece separately. The first thing we do is we subtract 2 on this one. The 2's cancel. Negative 7 minus 2 is negative 9. Bring down the greater than, bring down the negative 3x. Next, we have to divide by a negative. Now, when I say divide by a negative, you should be thinking, oh, that means we have to flip the inequality. So this symbol is going to flip. Instead of greater than, it's going to be less than. Negative 3's cancel. We have x is less than. Negative 9 divided by negative 3 is positive 3. All right, now we have our other inequality. 2 groups of x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 6. The first thing we do is we distribute. So if we have 2 groups of x, that's 2x. And if we have 2 groups of minus 2, that's minus 4. Is greater than or equal to 6. I'm just going to separate these so you can see that we have this OR right here, so these are separate. Now we're going to add 4 to both sides. That becomes 10. We have greater than or equal to. We have 2x. Next, I divide by 2. And since I'm dividing by a positive, I do not flip the inequality. So it's just x is greater than or equal to 5. All right, so we have both of our solutions for the inequalities, and then we're going to graph them. So on my graph, I need to have a 3 and a 5 at the bare minimum. So here we have 3, I'll put 4, put 5, and then I'll put a number above, a number below, and since I have space, I'll put another number like so. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we will graph each piece. X is less than 3, so we will use an open dot, and we will go in this direction, less than. And for x is greater than or equal to 5, I'm going to use a closed dot, and I'm going to point it in this direction. Now if you choose, you can use a bracket instead of a closed dot, or you can use a parenthesis instead of an open dot. In this section, we will solve a compound inequality involving and we'll see what that looks like. All right, this part is written in the center, the minus 8x plus 4. So to solve this, we actually have to split it up. We have the negative 12 is less than minus 8x plus 4. And then we have the other part of it, which is negative 8x plus 4 is less than 20. So I had to write this 2 times. I had to write this piece, and then I had to write this piece. The first thing we'll do is we're trying to get x by itself, so I will minus 4 on both sides. And that is negative 16 is less than negative 8x. Next, I'm going to divide by negative 8. And because I did that, I have to flip the inequality symbol. So it's now going to point this way. The negative 8's cancel. We have x. Negative 16 divided by negative 8 is 2. Now, I can leave it as it is, but when I graph this, it's much easier if I flip it around. So I'm going to read it backwards as x is less than 2. So just flip it. Write it backwards. Now we're going to solve the other inequality. We have minus 4 on both sides. And then we have negative 8x is less than 16. We divide by negative 8. And because I divided by negative 8, we have to flip the inequality. X is greater than negative 2. All right, we have 2 answers here, or 2 inequalities, and we need to graph them. And I did not put a number line there for you. My apologies. So I'll just draw mine here. We need negative 2 and we need 2. So I'll put negative 2 here, and then I'll put 2 over here. We have 0 in the middle, and then we have 1, and we have negative 1. From there, we have x is less than 2, so I'm going to have it going this way. I'm just going to kind of leave it open with no arrow on it, just so you can see what's about to happen. And then I have an open dot here at negative 2. X is greater than negative 2. And if you notice, these are going to end up touching each other. So we end up not having any arrows because they combine. And that is an inequality involving and. So we separated it into its 2 pieces, and then we solved each piece. Here we will solve problems involving compound inequalities. The School Adventure Club is figuring out how many students can go on their next trip. They will either go to the zoo, which will require busing, or to the movie theater that is within walking distance. They have a budget for tickets of $812. The table shows the data they need to keep in mind when planning the trip. How many students can the school take on the trip for $812? All right, there's a lot of information to look at here. We have zoo is $14 a person, but there needs to be one chaperone for every 6 students. So we have this, we have this that we have to take into account. All right. Since there's a budget of $812, we have to take that into account for tickets. So the ticket cost, we need to take $812 and divide it by 14. So that's what the tickets will equal, or how many tickets we can buy. We can buy 58 tickets if we divide that. Next, we have to account for the chaperones. So if we can have 58 tickets, we also have to buy them for the chaperone. So for 6, we have 1 chaperone. That means we would need 7 tickets. For 12 students, we would need 2 chaperones and 14 tickets. For 24, we would need 4 tickets, or 4 chaperones, which would be 28 tickets. So I'm just going to keep going. I'll double that. 48 students, we would need 8 chaperones. If we add those together, make this an arrow so it doesn't look like a subtraction. 48 students, we need 8 chaperones. That, if we add those tickets together, that would be 56. We can't go above 56 tickets because if we added 6 more students, that would go above 58, and we would have to have another chaperone. From there, we can say that we can have students less than or equal to 48. That's how many students can go to the zoo. We're going to do something similar for the movies. Now, money is not an issue, but capacity is. So there's a maximum capacity of 231, and we have to have 1 chaperone for every 20 students. So what we're going to do here is we'll say that we have 20 students. That means we need 1 chaperone. So if we had 200 students, we would need 10 chaperones. So we multiply by 10. We still have room because that's only 210. And the capacity is 231. So we could have 220 students, and that would require 11 chaperones. And that equals exactly 231. So we could take 220 students to the movies, but we could not take more than 220 students because of the chaperone restriction. So if it's to the movies, it's less than or equal to 220, and if it's to the zoo, it's less than or equal to 48 students. And down here we have a concept summary, compound inequalities. And then the words, the solution of a compound inequality involving or includes the solution of one inequality as well as the solutions of the other inequality. The solution of a compound inequality involving and includes only solutions of both inequalities where they coincide. There is the way that looks algebraically, and there's the way that it looks as a graph. All right, that is your 1.6 compound inequality.